Okay, once again, I ran out of time in that last video about the rubric for the argument summary homework. I seem to have trouble keeping under 15 minutes. That's the limit. So anyway, in this final part of the my explanation of the rubric for the argument summary, I just will finish up with one last comment about that that fourth student submission and say a couple of things in closing. So this video will not be 15 minutes, I promise. Let me go down to the bottom and return to the to the document I shared with you. And as you recall, this last one, this was a good summary. It earned a B. And the main issue I had with this summary that I think the student could have done better with is kind of explaining the connections, right? And in the middle here, in the middle of the paragraph, the students seemed to wander from the main point, wander from the main argument, and there were a few places where the sentences were unclear. But then tying things up, Heath would explain that many subjectivists, including himself, redefined the theory of welfare. What I was asking at the end of the last video when I got cut off is, how? How does Heathwood refine or redefine the theory of welfare from a subjectivist point of view, and why? I mean, it's in response to various objections, like the one we were talking about earlier with the cherry pie example. But and so we move to a quote, and this is good. One thing I'll say about this quote is it should be prefaced by words of the writer. So a sentence like this, as Heathwood says, comma, and then the quotation. Always begin the sentence with a phrase of your own, not with a quotation mark. Here, like up here, we have a good example. Here, the student does a nice job of incorporating the quote into their own sentence, but here, the quote is just sitting there. It's not incorporated into the sentence. That's going to be something important for when you're writing your essays. How smoothly you incorporate quotations into your own writing. I will be paying attention to that. Sometimes our desires are based on ignorance, so that goes to the example about the cherry pie example. It would have been nice if the student had sort of mentioned a specific example here. It's a relevant quote, but the quote is not incorporated well into the sentence and is not really explained. He and others believe that welfare is not our actual desire, but our idealized desire. Well, actually, I mean, this is a little bit of a misreading, and this came out in the quiz, one of the quiz questions. Heathwood considers an idealized desire theory. The idealized desire theory is the view that one's welfare consists in the satisfaction of desires that are based on the full information, the desires that are idealized in the sense that the desires for things that we would want if we were in a fully rational, fully informed state of mind. Okay, and that makes subjectivism about welfare seem like a more attractive view. Okay, if we idealize the desires, but Heathwood rejects that. Heathwood thinks that that just introduces an objective component. Right, what makes that I desire ideal is that it is something good to desire from an objective standpoint. But he is saying that, his view is that subjectivism boils down to the idea that whatever I happen to desire, right, that determines what it means for my life to go well for me, right, that I'm satisfying those desires, even if they are not desires that a fully informed and fully rational person would have, or even if they are evil desires, as in the case of Bundy. So by refining the theory to say that my welfare consists in the satisfaction of idealized desires, I make it a more attractive theory, but it no longer sounds like subjectivism. I introduce an objective measure of well-being, and that's kind of what Heathwood is rejecting. So he does not go that route. He finds another way of explaining why subjectivism is not threatened by this example of the cherry pie. Right? And his point is like, look, so from Heathwood's point of view, my welfare is determined in relation to my actual desires and the satisfaction of my actual desires, not my idealized desires. Because he thinks that comes closer to the spirit of subjectivism. In any case, so what does he say about the cherry pie example? Well, if I eat the cherry pie, I do satisfy that desire. but it frustrates my net desires because I'll get sick or die, right? And then so all these other things that I desire will be frustrated. And so the reason why satisfying my desire for the cherry pie when I'm allergic to it does not benefit me is that it ends up frustrating other desires that I have. Okay, and so he does refine the theory to say that my welfare consists in the satisfaction of my net desires. Okay, not just any particular desire I happen to have right now, but my net desires. Okay, anyway. So small point, but the student does a nice job of introducing an idea in Heathwood, but doesn't really explain its connection to his argument as clearly as I'd like. Ideas that if we knew everything in the moment, we think clearer before making the final everyday decisions that affect our lives. That sentence was a little unclear, and since it's the last sentence of the paragraph, it's important, right? The summary should end with a sentence that clearly states either the main argument that Heathwood in this case is making, or the main conclusion, or how he connects his conclusion with his reasoning, right? A statement that captures the core of Heathwood's argument. And this sentence I found a little bit confusing. Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't mention this in the rubric, but I'm also looking to see that you comprehended the reading. And so there's a couple of places here where I wasn't sure, like, for example, Heathwood does not defend the idealized desire theory, and I wasn't sure if the student comprehended that or not. Maybe I'm just misreading or misunderstanding, but that's a point about the writing. Like, the clearer you are about what you're saying and why you're saying it and how it connects to the argument that Heathwood is making, right, the better. Okay, so that's the end of this video and the end of my discussion of the rubric, going back up to the top. These are the 4 things I'm looking for in your argument summaries. And I showed you some examples of students that earned an A and of students who earned a B for this assignment. And it's not a huge difference between the A and the B, but it's an important difference that you're able to do all 4 of these things well. Okay, and this will benefit you in the writing of the essay as well. I want to see that you're able to do these things in your essay when you're summarizing other people's arguments, but also when you're developing your own, right? You need to be able to clearly identify and articulate your central claim and the reasons you have for thinking that it's true or reasonable or plausible. And you need to be able to do a good job explaining the connection between your central claim and the reasons you're giving in support of it. Giving clear examples, clearly defining your terms, making more nuanced distinctions between concepts. And then I want to see that you're citing and referencing relevant passages from the text as you support your argument. Okay. All right, so all of these things that I'm looking for in the summary also apply to the construction of your own argument in the essay. Okay, so that's it. I hope that was useful. Over and out. I don't want to run out of time again, so this is it. 8.5 minutes. That's less than 15. All right, see you next week. Bye.